Hello everyone, it's Kylie from PaperDaisyJournals. I have a journal to share with you, a flip through of my pink Christmas angel journal. And it's very different to what I would normally create. I'm really sort of extending myself out of my comfort zone and being inspired by lots of other journal makers. So with this journal, I have actually used a single piece of fabric for the cover, and I have cut that and torn that to the size of the front, the back and the spine. Everything is very rough with me because I like that shabby sort of look. But what I did with the cover, so I'll just hopefully open this out without stuff falling out. This is the piece of fabric. So what I did was I folded it in the middle and creased it, and this is beautiful antique French linen, so it creases beautifully. And then I centered this piece of gorgeous sari trim. I hand dyed that with avocado dye, so it's got that beautiful blush look, but it also has really gorgeous little sequins, gold sequins, and I thought that was very sort of Christmassy. So I sewed that on with my machine all the way around, and then I sewed on this collaged panel and I sewed on that collaged panel, and that's how I've created the cover and the lining for the journal, because the lining is the piece of fabric, so you'll see that when I start to flip through. So on the cover for the collaged panel, I did stitch it onto watercolor paper. It doesn't have to be expensive watercolor paper, but I find watercolor paper is quite soft when you tear the edges, and it has a little bit of texture or tooth if you are a watercolorist. So I've used that for the front. What I did was I layered this dyed pink paper doily, a piece of trim, some lace and some embossed paper. I used a little bit of bloom washi tape. I didn't glue anything down because if things moved a little bit, I was okay with that because I wanted that sort of shabby look. And I sewed with the sewing machine around the edge. You could probably achieve the same thing with glue, but you would need to use quite a lot of it to keep all of the layers on the cover. Once I'd done that, I hand stitched on these beautiful crochet medallions with some mother of pearl buttons, and I made sure that I had enough clearance around the edge for my sewing machine foot to go around. So what I did then, once I finished collaging the panel, I actually stitched around the edge, just moving things out of the way. So that was then stitched onto the fabric cover. So that's how I did the front. The spine was a little bit different to what I normally do. I have done these bows on the outside of a spine before, but this time I decided to keep it simple. So I just have 2 holes. So I have threaded the sari silk through this hole, okay, and I've brought it out here and I've tied the bow in the middle. So I find the center, 6 centimeters to the bottom, 6 centimeters to the top, so it's evenly spaced, and I've just done that for the 2 signatures. I've left quite a bit of space in the middle for expansion in the journal, and I have double knotted that and then tied a bow, and then on the ends I threaded some of these beautiful antique beads because they have quite a big hole, and then I've just tied a little knot so they don't come off, and I sort of liked that look. I think I'm going to make a journal with bells hanging off the signature strings on the outside like that, because I think that would be gorgeous and make a beautiful sound while you're journaling in it. But this sort of reminded me of mistletoe, how mistletoe sort of hangs down with the berries. Anyway, that's my creative interpretation. I've never personally seen mistletoe, so I am just guessing. On the back here, it's probably a bit easier for you to see. So I've got the different layers. I've stitched that on with the sewing machine, and then I've gone around the edge and stitch the whole panel to the fabric cover. So yeah, that's how I've sort of made the cover of this journal. And I've used the Pink Angel Christmas kit and I think the Pastel Pink kit, so I'll link those in the description. And I printed out the Pink Angel kit twice to use that to theme the whole journal. So this is one of the collage pages, and what I did was I cut that out and inked the edge, added a little bit of glitter, and the idea was that you can actually tuck something in at the start of the journal, and I've just used permanent craft glue to stick that on to the fabric. So that's how I've sort of, that's the start of the journal. Then I've sort of fussy cut the little angel. I've used some washi tape. That's one of the decorative pages. And I've used a really beautiful glass button just as a dangle. That's the Pastel Pink kit. I just wanted a kit that you could back onto things and still write on. Here I've done a little bit of cross stitching on that little tab, and then I've used one of the pieces of ephemera in the kit, and I've just added a flip out with some of the balloon washi tape. And this ledger is from 1891 from France. And I've got this, I've managed to find this absolutely stunning French vintage French, or actually antique French lace. I have a fair amount of it, if I'm honest, but I will be using the smallest pieces for a while. But I've just sort of stuck that on with a stapler, one of the Tim Holtz little staplers, so that it sort of moves around a little bit. And that's another page from the kit. Here I've just put a gorgeous piece of vintage wallpaper. I just love the color of that one. I've got a decorative paper clip, rusted paper clip that I've stuck on there, and I've just tucked in a little piece of ephemera for the layers. Another vintage wallpaper tag, and this is an element that I've cut from the decorative page of the kit and just added a ruffle at the bottom. This is an original French document. I'm not sure what year it's from, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, 1910. Music page with another, I think this is the envelope from the kit. And what I've done is, instead of cutting it into two parts, I've just stuck it, I've sewn it. I'm trying to work out how to explain it. So this is one piece of ephemera, and rather than making it into a floating pocket, I've slipped it on the bottom of the page and I've sewn around it. That's the best way to explain it. And here I've just stitched on like a little crocheted medallion, because they remind me of snowflakes. And this is sort of a Christmassy journal, a wintry journal, even though in Australia it's stinking hot in summer and our Christmas is very different. I think we all dream of seeing a white Christmas. I certainly know I do. One of my collaged cards. This is a pocket on that side as well, and that's the other side of that French receipt. Here I've actually cut a tag out of one of the collage pages, so I've used, I think, that luggage tag as a template, and I've just cut around the edge, inked the edge, and I have stapled on a little vintage receipt with some tulle and tucked her in there. Here I have layered two pieces of sari, so there's sort of like a piece of silk underneath and a smaller piece on the top, and sewn it to sort of give it layers without ruffling. And a little decorative, I love the bits that stick out from the side of a journal. The more things that are sticking out, the better for me. And that's the other side of the decorative page in the ledger. This is another image I think I've cut from the kit. and I've just put in a fabric tag, and with this tag it actually has a little pocket, so instead of sewing the whole thing on, I've just sewn on 3 sides, so you can tuck something special in there. And it's not too bulky. Silk ruffle down the side and some washi tape. Here I've threaded, because this is antique French eyelet, but it's actually I've forgotten the type of eyelet, but it's one that you thread ribbon through. So I've threaded some of that layered sari through it and then sewn it on the top as a tab, and I just love how sort of delicate but chunky that is. And then we're going into the second signature. You can see there's quite a big space down the middle there, which makes the journal feel a bit like squishy as well and not so full. I could have easily put a third signature, and I was sort of going to, but I wanted there to be a lot of movement in this journal, which I tend to make quite like tight journals, stuffed full of things, and everything's double sewed and glued, and I just wanted this one to be quite a lot looser. So I've added a little bow at the top there just with a mini stapler. I did that after I had sewn in the signatures, because normally I sew everything on my sewing machine and glue most of the stuff in, and then I bind it into the journal. So if you change your mind or come up with an idea, you can always like just use a stapler to staple a bow on, because it's quite secure. That's another angel that I fussy cut. Now I tried really hard to find, I collect antique Victorian scrap album pages. I've never actually managed to find an entire book, but I think postage to Australia for something like that would be insane. And it had all of these Christmas angels on it that I've used in my kits, but I actually can't find the page, and I just really hope I haven't lost it in our move, because I wanted to show you where I got the actual images from. Anyway, and they're not rare Victorian scraps. I think there's quite a few. It used to be a real thing to have an album of Victorian scraps if you were a wealthy lady in the late 1800s and early 1900s. So yes, anyway, I couldn't find the page. This is another page from the kit, and I added a little bell. And I don't know if I said I'm going to make a journal with bells on the signature, because I think that would be just so, you know, very jingle bells. So hopefully I'll get to do that in the next few days. I use original blank ledger in my journals. I've cut this out from the top of a page and turned it into a little tuck spot. This receipt is from 1927, and here I've just stapled on another crocheted doily. Crocheted medallion, I should say. I stapled it on because this is antique embroidery journal, and I find that if I use any sewing from a sewing machine on it, it starts to tear. So that's another handy hint if you're using very delicate paper to actually staple things on. Here is a tuck spot with another element from the kit and a little ruffle. Here I've collaged down the side of this piece of blank ledger. I haven't stuck it down, but you definitely could and use that as a tuck spot. Here I have cut another tag out of one of the pages, and I've glued that on to make that into a tuck spot. And at the top here I've just used tiny seed beads in the colours from the tag as a little decoration, and it's quite flat because the seed beads aren't very bulky. So that's another sweet little trick. Here I have used a piece of ledger from the US from 1899. It's a grocery shop ledger, And I haven't actually sewn or glued this down. It's being held into like a tuck spot by this little decorative paper clip at the bottom. So this is a little tuck spot at the top all the way along. That's a little tuck spot, and I've created a fabric tag with some fabric and this gorgeous tulle with little pink felt dots on it to give it that sort of layered look, and I've just tucked that in to that paper clip to hold it in there. On this ruffle I've pinned a gorgeous glass vintage button. They look like plastic but they are glass. And one time I was flipping through a journal quickly and I flicked the page over and it actually cracked into two. So they are definitely glass. Obviously not this one, but yeah, if you buy one of my journals, be very careful of the glass buttons. That's the other side of that page. Again, I've just collaged it with wallpaper, some beautiful handmade paper and embossed paper. Here I've made a little card and I've put some gold glitter around the edge. This was a gorgeous token that I found in a bundle of French ephemera. Actually, no, it wasn't French, it was from the UK. Yeah. Because I get a lot of my stuff from France, so that was a bit exciting. So I've put that, I think that might have actually been a school award, possibly, because it was in with other school ephemera from the UK. But anyway, I just love that as one of the ephemera pieces in the kit. And this is a journal from 1966. From France. That's the other side of that receipt. Another one of my vintage wallpaper tags. It's literally just vintage wallpaper stuck onto a tag. And this is another thing I've just cut from the kit, and I've sewn it. I've put a little bit of lace at the bottom when I've sewn the pocket on. Here I've included a beautiful original Victorian calling card, and this one is for Abigail Demons. I think that's Demons. And I've just tucked that in. Tabs, if they're made of sort of, I guess, heavier fabric or lace, can actually be used as little tuck spots. Okay, a little jiggle there. It doesn't come out. I'm not saying I shake my journals just to make sure, but I don't like things flying out when you sort of turn the page. That's not my journal making style. This is actually beautiful braille paper that I got from, I think Studio Marlowe is the Etsy shop that I got that from in Australia, which I have to get more of because I use it a lot. That's another one of the pieces of ephemera from the kit, and I've just slipped that in, tucked her in there so she's peeking out, and I cut that from one of the pages, like the front cover. And that is my Pink Angel Christmas journal. Lots of different ideas. Yeah, so hopefully I've inspired you. As I said in my previous video, I am going to be having end of month shop updates now, and I will put when this journal will be available in the description, and once it's sold I will update that and say that it's sold, and I will link the kits that I've used as well. So thanks for watching. Bye.